Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so your friends see it. Thank you.
Donald Trump's other Attorney General problem. Chicago. Turn on any TV in Illinois and you'll see ads from a slew of candidates for state attorney general who are vowing to battle a notorious tyrant, a racist fear-monger whom they view as a threat to democracy itself. They're talking about Donald Trump. In the state's first primary election of the Trump era, the president has turned the race to be Illinois' top lawyer upside down, with the traditional focus on consumer protection, law enforcement and legislation taking a backseat to promises to fight tooth and nail against Trump. The 8 Democrats running for the party nomination in this solidly Democratic state have tapped Trump as the boogeyman in campaign material, debates and TV ads, promising to serve as the tip of the spear in a war against the White House. Sharon Fairley's been taking on bullies and bigots her whole life, says a narrator in one typical ad featuring Trump's photo, so she'll stand up to Trump's attacks on women, immigrants and people of color. In laying out his own case for the job, former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti, who doubles as a cable news pundit on the subject of Trump, has framed his candidacy as a way to stop Donald Trump in his tracks. When he tries to undermine our healthcare or roll back environmental standards, my answer as Attorney General will be, "See you in court, Mr. President," Mariotti said in a video launching his bid. "If you're angry as I am about a president who is disgracing our nation, please join our campaign for Attorney General." Fairley, like several of her competitors, weaves her personal narrative into the Trump opposition, saying she takes issue with Trump's criticisms of affirmative action. The policy, she says, may have factored into her acceptance into Princeton, but she notes she graduated magna cum laude with a degree in mechanical and aerospace engineering. "I'm amongst the millions of people, women in particular, who have been demoralized by the policies of the Trump White House," said Fairley, who is African American and recently stepped down as the head of Chicago's Civilian Office of Police Accountability. So his comments on affirmative action? That's personal to me. The racism? That's personal to me. Her rivals make similar pitches. Nancy Rotering, the mayor of a Chicago suburb, blasts the president's policies on guns and immigration and draws parallels to her own local gun policy battles. Former CEO of Chicago Public Schools Jesse Ruiz says his motivation is rooted in his experience as the son of Mexican immigrants. "I'll fight corruption and abuse no matter where it comes from, even from Donald Trump," he says in one ad. While the Trump factor might have inspired the crowded Democratic field, a major driving force was pure opportunity. The job opened up after Attorney General Lisa Madigan last year announced she would retire after having a lock on the office for nearly 16 years. That released an explosion of pent-up ambition from a wide range of contenders, former federal prosecutors, state lawmakers, imprisoned ex-Governor Rod Blagojevich's defense lawyer, a national TV commentator and, perhaps most surprising, a former Illinois governor. On the Republican side, the field is dramatically smaller and less Trump-focused. It consists of former Miss America and Harvard Law School graduate Erica Harold, who has significant party support, and Gary Grasso, a litigator and DuPage County board member. The chance to take on Trump in court is part of the reason Pat Quinn, who served as governor from 2009 to 2015, doesn't view his candidacy as a step down. Quinn, a Democrat who had a rough relationship with the party establishment as governor, called the Attorney General's post the last line of defense for democracy. "That's definitely a powerful factor for me." Democrats competing in Tuesday's primary also see the race as a chance to seize some of the national spotlight by bringing Illinois in line with other states in which the top legal officer has used the Trump resistance to catapult into prominence. California's Attorney General Xavier Becerra and New York's Eric Schneiderman are models. Fairley said she wants to see Illinois driving the bus nationally on more legal challenges to the White House, including on the environment. Aaron Goldstein, a former Cook County public defender and Blagojevich's trial lawyer, said he sees the position as a place to resist tyranny. He's destroying our values, he's destroying the Constitution. We've realized we can't trust the legislature federally. It's an individual in the Attorney General's office who can actually go into court and fight on behalf of all of us, Goldstein said. Lisa Madigan has done some of that, but, in my humble opinion, she's been cautious. If I'm in office, I'm screaming from the rooftops every single day. Still, this is Illinois, which has its own fiercely parochial brand of politics and is struggling to emerge from decades of iron-fisted party boss control. Democrats are hell-bent on keeping control of the Attorney General's office, which party leaders see as a line of defense against a Republican threat much closer to home, Governor Bruce Rauner, who they say devastated the state's social service infrastructure and has leveled relentless attacks on unions. It wasn't necessary to look at what Trump is doing. We've got our own Trump and Bruce Rauner, State Senator Kwame Raoul said of entering the AG contest. Raoul and Quinn are polling as frontrunners. But a late $1 million infusion to the campaign of State Representative Scott Drury has the former federal prosecutor looming as a dark horse in the final days of the race. For Drury, the campaign is about taking on the local power structure, not Trump, specifically, House Speaker and Illinois Democratic Party Chairman Mike Madigan. Madigan is probably a bigger bully than Trump, said Drury, who's been entrenched in a personal grudge match with Madigan for years. Look, Madigan's been around for 40 years, no one's willing to go against him. I'm not giving Trump any credit. He doesn't have good qualities, but when you look at the way Madigan has run the House, you can say Trump is just trying to emulate Madigan. But even Drury can't get away from the president's shadow. In an ad funded by Fight Back for a Better Tomorrow, a political action committee whose donors are close allies of Madigan, Drury's Democratic credentials are questioned, amid claims he took thousands from Trump's own donors. Drury. He takes Republican money and votes with them, the ad concludes, with a photo of Drury juxtaposed next to Trump and Rauner. The last thing we need as Attorney General. McCabe kept memos on Trump conversations. Andrew McCabe, the former FBI deputy director fired on Friday night, kept memos detailing his interactions with President Donald Trump, according to a source familiar with the matter. McCabe was terminated by Attorney General Jeff Sessions ahead of a forthcoming Inspector General's report that has found he lacked candor when speaking with investigators about his disclosures to the media. But McCabe has connected his firing to what he describes as a broader campaign to discredit him given his likely cooperation with Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe of Russian electoral meddling and Trump's firing of former FBI Director James Comey. The 49-year-old bureau veteran's move to memorialize his interactions with the president adds a new wrinkle to the circumstances behind his firing, which leaves McCabe's pension in jeopardy and raises the still unanswered question of whether he will pursue legal action. The news was first reported by the Associated Press. McCabe has passed the memos on to Mueller's team, according to a second source briefed on his decision-making. In an interview with Politico before his firing, McCabe recalled a series of interactions with the president in May, the night that Director Comey was fired, the next morning on the phone, that afternoon in person, and then about a few days later when I was interviewed for the job of permanent director. In every one of those interactions, the president brought up my wife. Jill McCabe lost a 2015 campaign for Virginia State Senate in which she received nearly $500,000 in contributions from the Political Action Committee of then-Governor Terry McAuliffe, Democrat Virginia, an ally of Hillary Clinton. The media disclosures at the heart of the Inspector General report into Andrew McCabe's actions stem from reporting that discussed whether McCabe should have recused himself from Clinton-related investigations in light of the contributions. In one notable case, Trump referred to her as a loser, McCabe said earlier this month of the president's comments concerning his wife. That reference was made on the phone, according to a January NBC News report. But typically he would say, he would refer to her and her campaign as that problem I had, that mistake I made. And of course I disagreed with him each time he referred to it that way, which I'm sure he did not appreciate. Comey also kept memos of his interactions with Trump, which sparked a court challenge from media organizations seeking their public release. Trump's adversaries steal the spotlight after a wild 24 hours. Donald Trump's supporters want to see porn actress Stormy Daniels and former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe silenced and sidelined. But after an explosive 24 hours that featured an unprecedented legal threat from a sitting president against Daniels and the public firing of McCabe on Friday, Trump's two troublesome adversaries have a bigger platform than ever before. By Saturday, Daniels and McCabe were the subject of wall-to-wall cable news coverage, much of it unflattering to the president. And the White House was back on the defensive, facing uncomfortable questions about whether the president's repeated criticism of McCabe influenced Attorney General Jeff Sessions' decision to fire him, and whether Trump was directly involved in efforts to silence Daniels. The sequence of events began late Friday night, when Trump, through his personal lawyers, weighed in for the first time on the legal fight stemming from allegations that he had an affair with Daniels. The president's team asserted that Trump has the right to seek more than $20 million from Daniels for repeatedly violating a non-disclosure agreement. If Trump's lawyers follow through on the threat, discovery and depositions could result, pushing Trump further into the middle of the legal fight over the allegations, on which Trump has avoided commenting in public. Michael Avenatti, Daniels' lawyer, pounced on the president's legal tactic, casting it as a strategic misstep. This clearly was not well thought out before it was done, either that or they haven't been paying attention over the last 2 weeks, Avenatti told Politico in an interview Saturday afternoon. These tactics only work if the other side blinks, and in our case, neither my client nor I have any intention of blinking. As a result, the president and Mr. Cohen have only compounded their problems by bringing suit against my client for $20 million of bogus damages, Avenatti said, referring to Michael Cohen, Trump's personal lawyer. Cohen did not respond to a request for comment. Before the public could digest the Daniels news, Attorney General Jeff Sessions on Friday night announced his decision to fire McCabe, just over 24 hours before he was set to retire, rendering him ineligible for his federal pension. Sessions insisted his decision was the result of internal reviews that concluded McCabe violated Justice Department policies and was not forthcoming with investigators probing FBI actions before the 2016 presidential election. But McCabe and his allies worked furiously to raise doubts about the Justice Department's official explanation for his firing. In an interview with Politico published on Friday night, McCabe said his firing was connected to a border effort to discredit him for his likely cooperation with special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into allegations of Russian meddling in the 2016 election. But at some point, this has to be seen in the larger context, McCabe said. And I firmly believe that this is an ongoing effort to undermine my credibility because of the work that I did on the Russia case, because of the investigations that I oversaw and impacted that target this administration. They have every reason to believe that I could end up being a significant witness in whatever the special counsel comes up with, and so they are trying to create this counter-narrative that I am not someone who can be believed or trusted, McCabe added. And as someone who has been believed and trusted by really good people for 21 years, it's just infuriating to me. Saturday's news cycle further complicated the situation for the White House. First came Trump lawyer John Dowd's call for an end to Mueller's investigation, which Dowd initially said was made in his official capacity as Trump's lawyer before later clarifying that his statement was made in a personal capacity. Then Politico and other news outlets reported Saturday that McCabe, like former FBI Director James Comey, kept memos detailing his interactions with Trump, and handed them over to Mueller. The White House did not respond to a request for comment on McCabe's firing. Amid all of this, Trump was watching everything unfold from the White House, where he has no public events on his schedule this weekend. In an indication he is following the events on cable news, as he almost always does, Trump repeatedly tweeted his disdain for the critical coverage of the McCabe firing. The fake news is beside themselves that McCabe was caught, called out and fired. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars was given to wife's campaign by crooked H friend, Terry M., who was also under investigation? How many lies? How many leaks? Comey knew it all, and much more. He wrote on Twitter on Saturday afternoon. Crooked H refers to Hillary Clinton, and Terry M to former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe. McCabe's wife ran for the Virginia State Senate in 2015, and McAuliffe's Political Action Committee gave her campaign $500,000. Less than 10 minutes after Trump's tweet, Comey, who will soon publish a book recounting his experiences, shot back on Twitter, "Mr. President, the American people will hear my story very soon. And they can judge for themselves who is honorable and who is not." Alana Shore and Darren Samuelson contributed to this report.